have quite a few questions from a lot of students here. And the first question, I think when you were talking, you just said about pollution studies. You
Yeah.
said that the industries were cheating. And can you just say how were the industries cheating and how is it that we can help using foraminifera here?
See,
What
this
kind of cheating?
work started marine pollution study in 1976 when agro industry has installed a factory in South Goa. Now, after that, there was a agitation by the fishermen that factory is polluting, and that's why we are losing our fish. Whereas factories telling we no, we are not polluting. So someone has to go and decide. So scientists have to go. Now, if a factory owners are very smart, they can do one thing. They can stop discharging the effluent into the sea before you come for the sampling. By the time effluent already got diluted and you will give a report that there is no pollution. Go, and after that they will open up. Now you can counter it by collecting monthly sample. Okay. But if you go for, then it becomes so expensive monthly sample, then you have to wait for 1 year report, as well as the project became financially unviable. So the chemistry and biology people have a limitation of telling how to detect pollution. But here, when factory is discharging the pollution, the effluent, fauna get affected, their dead test getting already deposited at the bottom of the sea. Even after that, if they close down the factory, still you can say this factory was polluting if you take a short course. Okay, so
Yes.
this is very, and only one time sample collection. So this is financially viable, and no factory owner can fool a paleontologist. They can fool a chemist as a biologist, but not a paleontologist as far as the pollution aspect is concerned.
Okay. So the second
And
question.
particularly, I will tell you, many pollution board in coastal areas, they are planning to have people from the geology and paleontology background.
Yes. So you might be knowing I have been using the same thing for some estuaries along the west coast of Maharashtra.
Yes.
Yes. Anyways, the next question is, can we predict sea level or study sea level on the basis of generic distribution? By studying the different taxa, can we say that the sea level changed, or can we study sea levels using that?
See, why only genera? I gave you the paleo depth determination model, which was Praveen's thesis work. Okay. You need not go even to the taxa. You can see planktonic percentage and total fauna itself.
Sir, that is for what about people who are working in the shallower regions, the coastal regions where planktic forams are hardly there? What do you do with that?
See, you can see like we have done, uh, see, you can date those sediments and see their depth difference.
Uh,
Okay. So depth versus time when you plot, or like barnacles incrustation, the Tetraclita esquimosa reniformis. We paleontologists are very fond of giving fancy long names. So if you use that one, you can say the moving shoreline. Okay, but we have a limitation. We cannot go more, even we are very few people who are working on decadal level. But you can do it with the uh, corals also, because corals also having the very annual resolutions, you can get it. So if you are in last few 100 years, coral also can give you a good answer. Even otoliths will be very helpful. They are also making the rings. So plantic benthic ratio also can tell you. But one thing I will tell you, if you want to generate the sea level record, please don't collect samples at river mouth. They will give you a mixed record. Say for monsoon, you have to go to the river mouth microenvironment. But for sea level record, you have to move away from the sea mouth microenvironment.
yes, sir. So if I'm allowed to, if I can say, yes, even in shallow, there has been a lot of Fourier transformations which have been. The best part about foraminifera, which already Sir said, that they are very specific to different environment. Like he was talking about intertidal foraminifera, you have subtidal foraminifera, you have, so all supratidal foraminifera. So you can use these different, the assemblage of different depths, even in coastal areas, are different. And by looking at their abundances in the core, yes, but yes, for that you will need taxa. Sir was trying to make it very easy by just using planktic benthic or using elongated to rounded. But even in shallow water, we have a lot of work which is done on the basis of genera, and small sea level fluctuations can be studied on the basis of genera. Sir, there is this other question from Mr. Ramanand Yadav. He is asking, he liked the idea of planktic benthic ratios. He was asking till what depth can we use this model?
Since this is a webinar, I cannot ask a counter question. But normally when this type of question comes, I ask, can anybody tell me why planktonic foraminifera is away from the coast and you don't get it into the coastal areas? If you up to 50-meter water depth, planktonic foraminifera are very less in number, not more than 5% or something. So here lies the answer, that if you want to use planktic benthic ratio idea, you better go to the deep sea, where you get lot of planktonic, somewhere around a few hundred, 1,000-meter depth, where 50% benthic, 50% planktonic boundary condition. You can go there, you will get the best record. But see, the simplest, the tool you use, resolution became the casualty.
Yes.
So that you always reserve. If first you want a first order result, you can go to planktonic benthic. You want more refined results, go to generic. Still refined result, go to species level. Still refined results, you want, go to the isotopic composition, elemental. See, a lot of question has been asked now on monsoon. You people are telling like 3,500 year, I am telling. Higher monsoon was there. No, people are not satisfied with this answer anymore.
On
They
numbers.
say how much high? 10%, 20%, 30%. For that, you now the MGCA ratio has, you have worked on it, Rajiv has worked on it. See, MGCA ratio, if you do it, you get a quantitative record of the thermometer.
Temperature.
Okay. And isotopic records are mixture of the temperature signature as well as salinity signature. You delete temperature signature out of salinity, you will get an absolute salinity value. Then salinity value, you can link it with the monsoon rainfall. So you can say monsoon was 20% higher or monsoon was 50% higher. And this is actually, monsoon is very good because our agriculture scientists can get a benefit from this type of prediction.
Sir, another question. Yes, someone was asking, you actually answered it right now. When there are so many geochemical proxies which exist, why should we do this tedious task of studying microfossils like forams?
In two parts. First, I'll tell you, foraminifera are not complex or difficult. I have told you technique where even the generic level identification is not required. Okay. For monsoon, species level identification was not required. Still you can generate. I agree that isotopic record or elemental record, but without knowing the taxonomy and without correct identification, which most of the people are doing worldwide. See, even if you grind a chalk and put it into mass spectrometer, you will get a value. And I don't know who has asked this question. You can ask him whether he is aware of vital effect, because different species are isotopically higher, lighter or higher. Same genera, species are different. If you have not properly identified and picked up, you will mix up those records. And you will never know that where you committed a mistake. So all those who are doing isotopic composition or elemental composition for reconstruction of the past monsoonal record, my humble request to them, in your lab, please appoint a person who is trained in proper identification. Otherwise, you may get publish your record, but after 20 years, somebody will say this record was wrong because your identification, the basic object which you use, I don't want to name, but many people have wrongly identified the species. They mix up the records and got the isotopic value. So with foraminiferal knowledge and the isotopic knowledge, you can produce wonders. That's what we started doing it. Now recently we are telling temperature. During LGM, how much temperature was precisely lower or higher. You can see the Saraswat's paper on that. We published that paper, the first record of MGCA into the JGR record. Then Rajni's work is there. I think it is in marine geology. So you can see our papers, you will get these results.
निगम साहब नमस्कार।
हाँ देवेश भाई नमस्कार, कैसे हैं?
अच्छा हूँ। एक मेरे अंदर भी प्रश्न उमड़ रहा है, उसका जवाब दे दें जरा सा।
जी।
You have done lot of work on West Coast sea level changes.
Yes.
I have used your curves also.
Yeah.
Without asking permission, though quoting you and some of my talks.
Yeah.
Recently, you had published a very comprehensive paper on Eastern Coast sea level change.
Yeah, just I think last year we have published.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you, because I have read those papers, but since the author is just before me,
yeah,
what is the difference? And if at all it is there, why it is so?
Very good, Ricard. Very good question. Thank you. And Devesh, nice seeing you after so many months. Okay, we are missing you in. We are missing you in Goa parties. Okay, now I will answer your question. See, what the sea level I am talking about is a relative sea level changes. And the lecture which I gave for Vigyan Bharati, I mentioned that today, last time I could not mention. The neotectonic elements, some elements, I am not ignoring it. It may be incorporated into it. So this is a relative sea level changes. So some differences are bound to be there because different sectors of the coast tectonically might have moved 1 or 2 meters up and down. No geophysics person, including Dr. Harsh Gupta, giving me this answer. He asked me the same question what you are asking long back. I said, you tell me how much West Coast has gone up and down in my 100-meter record for last 15,000 years. I will delete 2 meters. Is there any work? He says, no. Everybody's ending up, might be neotectonics. But nobody say how many meters up and down. So if you compare East Coast and West Coast record, in nature they are same. Only in amplitude, sometimes they are different. Okay, like 7,000 years back for Ram Setu, which I use it, whether at the time of Rama it was possible to build Ram Setu or not. 7,000 years back, whether you see West Coast paper, whether you see East Coast paper, sea level was about 2 to 3 meters lower than today. Okay, so in either case, the general trend is same, both the papers. And very soon we are thinking all the students, see what we have published in 95, first time the sea level record, we modified in 12. I think this is a time some students are a group of people. Otherwise, probably this a ripe age, even I may go and revise this record or refine. See, there is not much scope in revision because more or less they are matching with the many areas. But refinement is definitely possible.
And my last question, if Rajni allows me, is you were talking about the fishes and the migration.
Yeah.
If we consider your own work on the paleo monsoon.
Yeah.
And not only paleo, but you have worked on also in the recent past, what has been changes, and you came out with a 77-year cycle of monsoon also.
Yeah.
So during this monsoon, we expect that there will be a change in the upwelling pattern at the
Yes.
western coast of India, and particularly the Kerala coast and Gujarat coast. So, is it that with the change in the monsoonal upwelling regime, there will be a change in the, this is a conjectural question, in the fishes population and their migratory needs?
Good, sir. Good question. Yes, my one word answer is yes. And now I will elaborate that. See, why monsoon varies and why does the upwelling varies in the past? This all, if you change any changes, why sea level has fluctuated, this is all related to the temperature. Okay, this is natural climatic variability what I'm talking about. And when I propose that model, Rajni, can I share my this PPT again?
सर इट्स ऑलरेडी शेयर्ड, आप आगे पीछे जा सकते हो, आप जस्ट फ्रंट एरो बैक एरो करिए, आप आगे पीछे जा सकते हो.
Okay.
आप चाहिए तो एंड शो करके भी उस स्लाइड पे जा सकते
नहीं,
हो.
हाँ. See here, the very idea of telling it is based on the temperature. During, if you collect the cores which represents the Holocene, we all know that Holocene temperature also has changed. Okay, so as the rise in temperature was there must be a migration, evolution, and extinction of the fishes. We have, me and one of very old students, she has not completed PhD, Shiba Jan. She has worked on otoliths from Gujarat coast. Very interesting results were there. We get some otoliths, but we don't get any fish of that type in that area. We get some fish in that area, but the otoliths is missing. Some fish otoliths continuing, but older otoliths is having say 20 rings, and modern otoliths have 5 rings. This initially fish will be this much area big, and now the fish is this much area. So extension is there, evolution is there, and migration is there. Now what I'm proposing, this model is applicable if someone is interested in the migration of fishes in future because of global warming, because fish industry is an industry on which a lot of coastal population depend. And this is the way we micropaleontologists can make ourselves relevant to the society, particularly the fishermen in the coastal localities.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your explanation. And this is
One more thing, Rupal has worked in the mudbank area. Those who are from Kerala, I don't know if anybody from Kerala logged in. Mudbank was a phenomenon where fishing was possible during monsoon, whereas rest of the coast it is banned. And we have suggested the reason and how to predict fisheries. It is related with the Vemnad Lake monsoon. Some other time I will make presentation on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you, sir.
Last week we were in a pool officer interview, and somebody who did PhD from Goa, NIU, she came out with a finding that though Gujaratis are vegetarian mostly, the fishers at the Gujarat coast, they are mostly carnivores. While the Keralaites who are non-vegetarian, but the fishers at the Kerala coast are vegetarian or herbivore. So I was just thinking about some of the scientific reasons behind it.
Devesh, I will tell you, I will just add in Goa itself, one person came to rent a house and he liked the house and the landlord liked the probable tenant. Then he says, do you eat non-veg? He says, yes. He says, then, sorry, I cannot give. He said, but sometime I eat only fish. No, fish is not a problem. Fish, we also eat it. So in Goa, all Saraswat Brahmins, they eat fish.
Yeah.
Sir,
Rajni, can I have
yes.
a word?
Yes. Okay. Yes, please, sir. Please.
I was interested in the sea level curve
Yes.
of the Holocene
I
period.
cannot hear this voice. Let me put the mic.
सर
Just hold
आप
on, please.
सर आप अपने स्लाइड्स अनशेयर कर दो तो सबके चेहरे नजर आएंगे.
अरे मेरा चेहरा तो नजर ही नहीं आ रहा है.
सर सर
जी सर, अब सुनाई दे रहा है.
जो सी लेवल कर्व आपने अभी दिखाया था फॉर द वेस्ट कोस्ट,
जी सर.
उसमें एक जगह
जी.
जिसका मैं इंटरेस्टेड हूँ,
हाँ.
वो है निष्कलंक महादेव टेम्पल है एक ऑफ भावनगर कोस्ट.
अच्छा, भावनगर में. ओके.
ऑफ भावनगर कोस्ट.
जी.
वो ये टेम्पल इंटरटाइडल एरिया में लोकेटेड है
जी.
और इट इज कॉल्ड निष्कलंक महादेव.
जी.
और इसका अगर आप ये कहा जाता है कि ये स्वयंभू है.
जी.
और इसका रिलेशन जो है वो एंड ऑफ महाभारत वार से है. और महाभारत वार की जो एज निकाली जाती है वो है 5600 ईयर्स टू 4000 ईयर्स. बड़े वेरिएबल है एज पर द रिकॉर्ड्स बाय द एस्ट्रोनॉमर्स एंड अदर्स. सो वेयर डू यू पुट दिस निष्कलंक महादेव in that sea level curve?
Sir, couple of things. Thank you, sir. I'm very delighted to see you today after so many years.
Thank you.
Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
The age of Mahabharata is a little bit still debated.
That's it.
Okay, Dr. S.R. Rao and many of us, and as per the sea level curve, it has to be 3,500 years. Because that was the only time when sea level was lower than today. Okay, and 5,000 years if you give, there are ample number of records around 6,000, 5,000 years sea level was higher than today.
Mm-hmm.
So if Nishkalank Mahadev was built 5,000 years, it means it should have been today, like Lothal should be away from the sea. Okay, now you are telling it is in intertidal level.
Yes, yes.
Intertidal level, see most of the temples, they are between 1,000 years and 2,000 years. Okay, so accordingly, Nishkalank Mahadev, at the most, it should be older around 3,500 years.
But as per the calculation given by the astronomers,
see, साहब मुश्किल ये है कि I remember when I started career in paleoclimate, I was thinking that C14 dates like gospel truth. Because I myself was not doing it, so I was thinking those who are doing it, they are giving a very, very correct age. Now I know, like us, they are also very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the astronomical date, I am aware of it because of my Ram Setu work. There is a lot of controversy in that, sir, how these astronomical people are doing it. What they do, they calculate the age of the star positions that time.
Yes, sir.
And putting them into the software of the planetarium software.
That's right.
Okay, and from there they give age. Now, in one conference which was inaugurated by Dr. Abdul Kalam
Mm-hmm.
and organized by Saroj Bala, I presented this paper. Okay, so I know Saroj Bala has used with the help of Pushpar Bhatnagar, who initially has done this job. See what happened, different Ramayana, particularly more on the Valmiki Ramayana. They have calculated the position of stars. Now this combination of stars you put in planetarium software, you'll get when was this combination. That was 7,100 years. Then they tried to, now they are trying to do it with Mahabharata also. But there is no general agreement.
Actually, the best age that has been given so far by Narhari Achar is about 3,500 years.
That is the age I am accepting it. Because
and that is also corroborated by Mr. Raghavan, Dr. Raghavan also.
Also, and then Dr. Rao also given the same age, who discovered the submerged Dwarika.
Yes, yes.
I have very high regard for him. He is no more. And it was his influence that marine archaeology, he is the father of marine archaeology in India.
So can we put this this date also in the curve?
Yes. See, you have seen the curve, no? 3,500 years back, sea level was about 6 to 8 meters lower than today.
And there is another actually location,
Yes,
Stambeshwar Mahadev, which is near Jambusar.
Yeah.
It has a mention in the Skanda Puran also,
Ji.
but no dates have been calculated so far.
That's of this job. I see, as a geologist, uh, even about Ram Setu, when I attempt answering question, my first or the last line used to be, "So, boy, don't ask me any question about Ramayana." Okay. Now, if Ramayana is there, and as the age given by Saroj Bala through planetarium combination, 7,100 year back, BC means 7,000 year back. I can tell you, yes, it was possible to connect India and Sri Lanka, because currently, if you see, the depth in this area is about 3 meter, 3.5 meter, 10 feet normally they say. If you lower the sea level by 3 meter, it gets connected, except in between some ditches are there, which you can connect it by putting stones, trees and whatnot by the Vanaras.
Yes.
And it is not a setu. See, when you use the word Adam's bridge, or we say Ram Setu, what comes to our mind? Overhead, this flyover, like Hanuman Setu in Lucknow. Okay, no, sir, it is not bridge.
It's not a bridge.
It is a bandh.
Setu bandh, Setu bandh.
And in Sanskrit, what we call it? Setu bandh Rameshwar.
Setu bandh, yes.
So it was a bandh. So what I say, 7,000 years back, Ram or anybody else, for him, it was possible to connect Sri Lanka and India by little efforts, by Nal and Nil.
Thank you.
Sir, a very interesting question by Dr. Vanzarwadkar.
Yes.
I request him to ask it himself. Meanwhile, I acknowledge the presence of Dr. Kathal here, and Zingde Saab is here. That is the most surprising
Oh,
and
Zingde.
nice. Zingde Saab is here.
I don't know how to go to, I want to see him. Dr. Jigde is, I can tell you, those who are not knowing Dr. Jigde.
आप अपना slide unshare कर दीजिए.
Sir, आप अपना slide unshare कर दीजिए. Zingde
Achha. Okay, okay.
Zingde Saab, can you please switch on your video? अच्छा मैंने अभी उनको कहा. Yes, sir. Sir, namaste.
Namaste, sir. Dr. Jigde was the Bombay Center in charge for a long time. And he was director, and I also for a short time. And he was the one person who in NIO considered, he's originally from IIT Bombay, and most respected scientist and administrator in NIO.
Sir, he was the officiating for 1 year when
Yeah.
Disa Saab went and Shekhe
Yeah.
Saab was supposed to take over. So that
Yes.
time Zingde sir
Yeah.
was there.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Namaskar, sir.
Okay, I pass the question to Vanzarwadkar sir. If you can ask your question, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
सर नमस्कार.
Namaskar.
निगम साहब. सर मेरा क्वेश्चन ऐसा है कि actually there are two different aspects I wanted to ask you
Sure.
in two different questions. The
Yes.
first question is I actually, when I was in GSI, I work in coastal area, eastern coast, Bakhali and Ganga Sagar area.
Okay.
There we could do some work, and we found there is a Ganga Sagar temple of Kashyap, Muni Kashyap.
Hmm.
That temple, people, we have talked to the different peoples also during the work.
Hmm.
They say our field was far away from the present coast.
Yeah.
So 2 kilometers, 1 kilometer, they say our field was there.
Yeah.
Now we are standing here.
Hmm.
And the next one is that temple is also away from the present coast in the sea.
Yes.
So is there sea level rising, or the sedimentation has a major role in rising the sea level in that particular area, because it is being fed by the Himalayan rivers? Sediments are coming directly from Himalaya. Maybe the sedimentation rate is.
Actually, Ganga, the delta area is a very complicated area. The model which I suggested for monsoon reconstruction coast, this river mouth microenvironment, this will not work in front of Ganga mouth. Because what happened, estuaries, there are very little sediment deposited. There's no progression of the area. Whereas in Ganges area, both the times, sea level is playing one type of role and deltaic sediments coming through in the Brahmaputra and Ganges, they're playing a different type of role. So both the coasts have to be, in order to reconstruct past, a different conceptual framework has to be developed. That is my first answer. Second answer, see, when sea level was higher about 5-6 meters on west coast, do you think it will not be on the east coast at the same time?
Definitely, it will be also there.
It will be there. So sea level was, and if sea level was higher, when it can reach to the Lothal on west coast, we should not get surprised if it has reached few kilometers in Bengal region also. Now, in Bengal region, further complication is the land also is encroaching the sea because of deltaic protogradation. So, so it is possible to have the sea level at that time. And I think some people have worked, Hajra's group, they have done some drilling into this area and they found the foraminifera. So they were wondering how in the sediment on land they are getting foraminifera. Dr. Sunirmal Chanda's group from Indian Institute of Institute of Cultivation of Sciences, he and his students have worked on it. So that is a clear-cut indication on the east coast, particularly in the Calcutta side. There are good evidences of the higher sea study.
Yeah. So there is another observation there. Reclamation of land is also going on.
Yes. Yes.
Reclamation of land.
I will tell you, Dr. Jingre Saab is here. He is the expert on this problem. See, it was NIO scientists who raised a lot of noise in 89, 90. NIO was the first institution which organized about sea level rise due to the global warming. Okay, and we told that sea level is likely to go up in coming centuries, and therefore the low-lying areas along the coast should be avoided for any heavy public or private investments.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so because when you are building a house, building a temple, you are not building it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. You are building for hundreds of years.
Yes.
But if you build too close to the coast, it may not last long. And therefore, Government of India, I think Madam Gandhi's time, she declared the proclamation about the CRZ rules.
Yes.
In certain areas along the river side, 50 meter to 500 meter away from the coast is no construction zone.
So that is not.
Ji, sir?
Especially in Bengal, Digha area, that is not being followed. The hotels are within at the coast, and they have been damaged by the river, sea water also.
Yes.
Presently, they are being damaged.
Yeah.
See, sir, problem is, so somebody asked me a question when I was presenting at one place about pollution. He said, now it is mandatory for all the factories to have their effluent treated. So your study is no more relevant because the pollution is already treated. I said, then you dissolve all pollution control board.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir,
okay, because problem is government can only make a role.
So I'm going to come to a very interesting topic, interesting question by Dr. Vanzavarkar. He had asked that foraminifera study is helping for understanding paleo monsoons.
Yes.
Can we have future trend projections and correlate it with rainfall for future 100 years so that it can help in planning? Because meteorology department is doing it only for 1 or 2 years. So how can we do that? Can we do it for a long time? And is it, how useful can it be?
See, I will tell you with my experience, because this was the work on which I got my recognition first. Yes, my answer is very positive, yes. Because for sector 31, what I told, this came out correct for last 15 to 20 years when we extrapolated the curve. Okay, that we will have a monsoon above rainfall, above normal or above normal. Now, what is required that many more core to be tested for different meteorological sectors. And every time you test 100-year reconstructed record with 100-year available rainfall record. If it work in your sector well, you take a deep core generate the data and predict the climate.
Extrapolate it.
Okay,
Extrapolate.
I am very, at least what I remember, Professor Soumyajulu of PRL has warned me when I started this work. He says, you are telling a monsoon will go be high, and within 5-10 years, you will be proved right or wrong, your career will be ruined. I said, okay, if my result doesn't come correct, I will see where I committed mistake in my methodology. Why to be scared of being a wrong? Don't cook the data. I tell students, if you cannot explain your data, leave it as such. Somebody else will explain. But don't cook the data. Data can tell you wonderful things. At least in our case, it has told, good monsoon, I predicted, I dared to predict. It is in newspaper that NIF scientists say coming decade will have a better rainfall, and I am proved correct.
So there's this other question.
Rajni,
Yes,
just one interruption is needed, because what Dr. Nigam says, I fully agree. With one condition is there, that look at the prediction level of the Indian Meteorological Department or Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. In several of the meetings, I raised this question that all your models which you run, number one, these models have not been developed by Indians.
Yes.
Mostly they use, just like we use Microsoft Word, we
Global
use the
global
model.
circulation models, GCM.
Yes, yes,
Global
And
circulation.
remember, these modelers, they never take into consideration of our paleoclimatic studies.
Indian scenarios.
Yes.
Yeah.
The models are just like video games, that you run it and it will give you the result, but it all depends upon the input.
Yes.
And hardly they take, I have asked in several of the interviews also, the modelers who have been trained from IITM have paper in Nature and Science, that are you aware of a 1 million year El Nino persisting in Pliocene? They say we are not aware. Are you aware about 77,000 year cycle? They say we are not aware. Now, this paleomonsoonal study or paleoclimate study gives us the idea that how these things are teleconnected.
Yes.
And these models should be modified based on inputs from our paleoclimatic data.
Yes.
And if we take more course, as Dr. Nigam says, we still will be strengthening our paleo-monsoon data. But nowadays, many of the patchiness in the rainfall, look at Haryana flooded, Delhi dry, Patna flooded, Danapur dry, Rajasthan flooded, Delhi dry. This patchiness they are attributing to anthropogenic activity. So this perturbation or disturbance or distortion in nowcasting or monsoon casting for 1 year or 2 years, it cannot be caught or catch by paleomonsoonal study.
Yeah, thank you for
of this monsoonal study.
thank you.
Sir.
Thank you for it.
Yes, we have to, we are at 1:15 and the last 2-3 questions if we can take, these are from students. There's one student who says that though this is irrelevant here, but I think it's a very genuine question. He asks, can you give us some pointers? What is essential? Because geology is a field-based study. Okay, so what are the basic things that we should take care while doing field work so that our basis of studies is good? And I would open it up to like Nigam sir and anyone who wants to answer.
The field, don't look into very narrow aspect. First thing, see all around and try to collect the sample which is not polluted by transport. Those who are working on land geology, take care it is not transported from some area. And in marine science, collect the core properly. Yesterday, Dr. Kulkarni has given a lecture about burrows. I have noticed it in some of the cores. So we avoid that area which is where burrowed is there so that your record is not polluted. Rajni, you can go to the next question.
So, okay, so the last question for today is, okay, actually there are 2 questions. I think both are important. One is, how has the hydrological cycle in the past impacted the human cultures? And what advice would you give to aspirants of paleoclimatology?
say all the ancient civilization, they have developed closer to the water source. We call it as a Indus Valley civilization. We call it Saraswati civilization. Or places like Lothal, Mahabalipuram, they are the coastal towns. So hydrology or hydrological cycles are very important. Even for, I remember when we were working on Dholavira, we have taken to Saran. And I looked around the geomorphology of that area. I said, in that direction, we must have a stream. They say, yes, it is there. I say, how you know? I said, because unless there is a freshwater stream, you cannot have a port. Okay, because you need a freshwater. So hydrography is always associated with the development of human races.
There is this other question from a worker, Tanmay Pisolkar, working for the past few years in, he's a geologist. He's working in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
And he has been interested in knowing, like you talked about sea level, are there signatures of sea level in Himalayan regions like Arunachal or Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand? And sir, if you want, you could also pass this on to probably Parcha sir or someone. What is the age? Yes, yes, sir.
I will tell you, it is a matter of luck. And I am working in, just a minute. Somebody has.
Sir, I will mute all. I will mute all and unmute you. 1 minute. Yes, sir.
Okay. When I joined first PhD in Lucknow University with Arshi Mishra Saab, my topic was Subatu limestone. And so the person who was there, Himalaya itself was a sea that once upon a time. And Subatu is an excellent example for that, where still we get a foraminifera into it. Otherwise, how you will get foraminifera exclusively marine organisms into Himalayas? Okay, I hope I have answered the question.
I think Devesh sir wants to say something. I'm going to, sir, 1 minute. Yes, sir, please.
Just I want to elaborate the answer that are there evidences of sea level changes in Himalaya? The question is not very clear. You should understand that after the withdrawal of the Tethys, there is no question of any sea level record in Himalayan region.
Exactly, yes.
You can have only in the Sundarban Delta the sea level record where Himalaya ends, the rivers drain itself. But the important thing is, this question can be significant if you ask, what is the latest or youngest marine formation in Himalaya? And that is the Miocene in Darjeeling. And that is late Miocene. Because when the Tethys was withdrawing, the pockets remain with the marine water. So sea level changes per se is not recorded in Himalaya. After withdrawal of the Tethys, the fluvio-glacial sequence of Sivaliks have taken over. So we do not have such record from the Himalaya.
Okay, Rajni,
Yes.
any more question?
No, sir. I think with this, actually questions aate rahenge, but we have this today. We've really exceeded, and I think we've taken a lot of questions from all students also. I think there was one, I'm going to guide one student to you because he's interested in knowing. He liked that concept of higher saline seas and lower saline seas that you talked about, migration of barnacles from Indian waters to Persian Gulf. So I'm going to give him your number and ask him to contact you. And with this, I think we come to the end of today's very elaborate.
Professor MP Singh ji, नमस्कार सर।
नमस्कार।
बहुत encouragement मिलता है।
अदर वे राउंड।
सर होलोसीन डिपॉजिट जब प्री कैम्ब्रियन को देखता है और देखता है उससे भी यंगर है।
ऐसा मत बोलो वरना इन्वर्टेड सीक्वेंस की सुनामी आ जाएगी।
Okay. So I would request Professor MP Singh or the seniors here to have some, a few sentences before we call it a day.
I mean, What else I can say? I always admire the way the Nigam Rajiv presents his work. He's a wonderful speaker. There is so much clarity, and I always enjoy it. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for your wonderful lecture.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think with this, I take the liberty to deliver the vote of thanks. Due respect and due gratitude is due to you, sir, for accepting my request. I had asked Nigam sir for the first time when we inaugurated our chapter 2 years ago. He was unable to make it then. But even today, I think if I had called him, he would not be able to make it. It is thanks to Corona that I could at least get him online to deliver this International Fossil Day talk for us. And sir, thank you so much for answering so many questions. I think it has been extremely lucid and it has generated a lot of questions. And that is what I appreciate the most. Thanks is due to each one of you who has participated, made yourself available. Even today, we had a full participation, 100 people here and about 20-25 people on YouTube, on Facebook Live, and many of them who look at the videos at the end of the day. I thank you one and all for making this possible, for joining us and staying with us right from the beginning throughout the lecture. And with this, I want to remind you all that tomorrow we have Professor Hussain from Madras, who will be talking to us about another proxy, which is Ostracods. So I request you all to please be here tomorrow morning again, sharp at 11:30. And thank you very, very much for all your cooperation and all your participation, without which we would not be able to reach our goals. Thank you so much.